Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the three different branches of government. And you might not have this in front of you, but I would definitely have a blank sheet of paper out where you just kind of create three columns where we're going to talk about the legislative, executive, and judicial branch. You don't have to write this word for word. The most important thing I want you to get out of today is who is in charge of every branch, and then what powers do they have? What can that branch do? Now, the beauty of our government is that no one branch, no one person or group should have more power than the other. That's why we have three different branches, and you'll notice that they're all going to check up on one another. So the president is one of these branches, and then the other branches are going to check up on the president. And another one is the Supreme Court. So the other branches are going to check up on the Supreme Court to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's the beauty of our democracy, the beauty of what our founding fathers set up. So again, the main thing I want you to write down, because we're going to keep coming back to it over and over, is what each branch is, and then what can each branch do. So we're going to walk through each one and jot down some notes as we go. So first, let's talk about the legislative branch. One thing that I need you guys to know is that there's two different parts of the legislative branch. And another name for this that I'd like you to jot down is that together, the legislative branch is called Congress. Okay, so the House of Representatives and the Senate make up Congress. So their main job together is to make the laws of our country. So each one looks a bit different. The House of Representatives has a ton of people in it, 435, because each state is going to send a different number of people. So for example, Illinois is a bigger state population-wise than Rhode Island. So we're going to send a lot more House of Representative members from Illinois than you're going to see from Rhode Island. The Senate, on the other hand, is completely equal. There's 100 senators total, which means there's 2 from every single state, no matter how big or small you are. Now, to be in the House of Representatives, you are going to be in office for 2 years. Then every 2 years, the public has to vote you back in. So that's why you hope that you're doing a good job, because you have to run for election every 2 years. The age requirement for a House of Rep is 25. You can't be younger than 25 to be a representative. And you have to live in the state that you want to represent for 7 straight years. So you can move away, but you got to come back and stay there for 7 years before you can be in the House of Representatives. The Senate has a little bit more leeway. They're in office for 6 years. Every 6 years, they have to be re-voted in. They can be 30 years old, is the youngest you can be to be a senator, a little bit more responsibility. And they have to live in their state for 9 consecutive years. Now, if we're just looking back at the House, something special about the House of Representatives is that they actually focus on all of the money laws. So any laws dealing with money, budgets, anything like that comes from the House. And then just for the Senate, they're going to approve any nominations that the president picks. So for example, we've been talking a lot about who's going to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court. The Senate has to approve anyone that the president picks. They also have to approve any treaties, so end of war agreements that the president makes as well. So they do a lot of approving in the Senate. Together, they can declare war, they make laws, obviously, and then they can override a president's veto, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If a president says no to one of their laws, he doesn't like it, then together they can say, no, I think we're going to push it through anyway, and they can override it. Okay, so that's the important takeaways that you need for the legislative branch. The executive branch is the president. Okay, so it's the president, and he enforces the laws. That's his job. He can be in for 4 years, and again, he can be in twice. So right now we're coming real close to a second term, is what President Trump is looking for. So he's been in for 4 years, and he's running for another 4, but he has to be reelected after his term is up. And the age requirement, you have to be at least 35 years old. Most are much older than that. And then you have to be in the United States for 14 years, but you also have to have been born in the United States to be an American president. If you weren't born in the United States, then you cannot be president. And then he has the power to veto laws, so he can say no to any of the laws that are made by the legislative branch. He can make treaties with other countries after a time of war. He nominates any Supreme Court judges, so that is what we're dealing with right now. One has passed away, so now whoever's president is in charge of appointing someone new to that highest court. He's the commander-in-chief of the military, so he calls the shots there. And he appoints cabinet members. He can't do the job all himself, so he has a lot of different secretaries that help him, and they're part of his cabinet, and they advise him. And then finally, our third branch is the judicial branch. They're in charge of interpreting the laws, and this is our Supreme Court. It's the highest court in all of America. We have lots of little circuit courts and different courts around different cities, but this is the highest court that there is in America. So there's 9 of them, 9 Supreme Court judges, and they are the final say. If those smaller courts around the nation can't make a decision, they are the final say. So it's a big deal. Now, they're in there for life. There's no set term. Once they are appointed, they're in there until they die or until they quit. And that's why it's such a big deal that one has just recently passed away, and now the current president can choose the next one. There's no age requirement and there's no residency because the president is going to appoint. Now, they have to have a law degree. There are some restrictions. And so that is why it's such a big deal. Anyone that sits on the Supreme Court presides over an impeachment trial. So if the president does something wrong and they're talking about wanting to kick that president out of office, they're going to preside over that impeachment trial. They can settle state disputes. So if Illinois is in a fight with Wisconsin for some certain reason, the Supreme Court is going to step in and help those states settle that. And their main, most important job is they declare any laws unconstitutional. So again, the legislative branch passes those laws, the president has to approve it, and then it can make it all the way to the judicial branch to say, nope, you can't make a law like that. It goes against the Constitution. So that's where all these branches are working together. They check up on each other. They can approve or deny certain things that another branch does. And that's how we kind of keep that balance. So what I'd like you to do is make sure you have these things written down somewhere so you can reference them, and you're going to answer the questions that follow the very best that you can. Good luck.